This is your host Waqas Khan with the 6th Alif USA TechCast. We bring you the real movers and shakers in the world of engineering and technology and academia on the most prescient topics. आज के मेहमान हमारे हैं मिस्टर इरफान वहाब खान, the chairman of Easy Paisa Digital Bank. Irfan is based out of Singapore. Welcome, Irfan.
Thank you very much, Ji. Thanks for having me.
आपके दो macro level identifiers हैं on your business journey. Obviously, Telenor and Easy Paisa, at least the ones that are right up front at the moment. So we can talk as we go forward on both the telecom elements as well as on the digital payment methodology. So उसके बारे में बाद में आते हैं. पहले जरा इरफान अपने बारे में जरा बताइए, आपकी early life, आपकी schooling, आपकी family.
Ji, thank you, guys. Yeah, it's interesting. I was actually born in UK. जब my dad was doing his PhD. So he was in academia. और सारी जिंदगी उन्होंने माशाल्लाह research में और teaching के अंदर गुजारी. So he was at University of Birmingham at that time doing his PhD. उसके बाद भी as a young kid we were moving around. So he was teaching in Turkey, Iran में भी थोड़ा सा time गुजारा. UK के बाद Germany भी, and then went back to Pakistan. So my schooling or high school at least was in Lahore, और उसके बाद FC College Lahore and then UET. So he was actually the chairman of electrical department in UET, and then also in the founding principal in UET Taxila, जब ये campus बना शुरू में. So I was deeply influenced by the engineers around me when I was growing up. क्योंकि होता ही है कि although I mean he never sort of force, उस ज़माने में career options भी कम ही थी, या medicine था या engineering थी, but he left it open to all of us, actually all our siblings. लेकिन होता ना back of the mind, क्योंकि आप influenced होते हैं when you see people around you, घर पे भी आ रहे हैं उनके दोस्त या मिलने वाले colleagues वगैरह, कोई chief engineer है किसी department में, या उस वक्त तो public sector ज़्यादा था. So I think I was always, and I was fascinated with engineering. So even when I was studying school maybe or college maybe, I did a lot of I would say internships at that time linked to that, which really make me convinced at some stage that I mean this is the field I want to be. So then UET के अंदर भी you remember so I was 86 electrical. उस ज़माने में we had a great time on the campus with all the student unions and halla gulla, or so thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, so in fact you get a lot of extracurricular exposure, which has really helped me, I would say, later on in my life and career both, because आपको जो it's not just the technical academic exposure you get, it's also the social skills, the extracurricular skills. So the environment actually matters, and I think we were blessed at that time that it was really good environment from that aspect as well.
बहुत अच्छा. So हम just go back a little bit. So पहली बात तो ये कि आपके वाले साहब भी electrical engineer थे.
जी.
आप so second generation electrical engineer हो गए. So that's a good thing. That's something that I share with you in common. दूसरी बात ये कि आपने कहा कि आप कई जगह पे रहे. So your early childhood was spent in multiple different domains, different countries, different environments. How was that a shaping thing for you? क्या आप जर्मनी में रहे, आप different जगहों पे, मुल्कों में रहे, उससे क्या कोई impact हुआ? What something that you can think of?
Huge influence. Again, you become a lot more comfortable with in a multicultural environment, in a very diverse environment. Or if you are growing up in that environment, so it becomes natural to you. So uska baad mein definitely when we talk about my career, so I also moved around and lived in different places. So I think again it was nothing was planned. लेकिन आप you become a lot more comfortable in that environment जहाँ पर आप अपना you push yourself in a different environment and you still are from within comfortable. You have that confidence कि यार I mean you can manage and you can. So I think early childhood also has a lot of influence on you. और अगर आप multicultural environment के अंदर है, so definitely it has a positive impact on you from a people viewpoint, social skills, and also, I mean, adaptability. Adaptability towards different cultures, people, environments.
ये मैं young बच्चों को ये भी हमेशा I talk to a lot of them. One thing that I tell them is कि आपका जो coefficient of uncertainty है, अगर वो high होता है, so आपके पास ability to react to anything, any place in your life, whether it's a considered reaction or an immediate reaction, both are honed. So उससे आपकी जिंदगी में बहुत फायदा होता है. So this basically is directly proportional in that dimension. बहुत अच्छे. So उसके बाद जब आप FC कॉलेज में गए, FC कॉलेज is also a very powerful institution in a lot of ways. It has changed over time. I remember one of my grandfathers was there, बल्कि my नानी's brother was इफ्तिखार अहमद, वो वहाँ पे हॉकी उन्होंने गोल्ड मेडल जीता था, वो FC कॉलेज के थे, तो उनकी तस्वीरें वगैरह लगी थी. I used to go to FC college at that time. FC college was a great institution. I'm assuming it still is. आपका एक्सपीरियंस वहाँ का कैसा था?
नहीं, जबरदस्त. देखिए, अगेन a proper college with, जैसे आपने हॉकी का जिक्र किया और sports. I actually also applied on a sports seats. Just with squash. I used to play squash at that time. So those things were integral part of growing up. So college में भी बहुत ज़्यादा focus था, and I was actually I represent college in squash as well. Although वो बड़ा short tenure होता because I just did FSC, unlike many people who stay there till masters. Right, so और FSC में भी उस वक्त बड़ा competitive होता है. आपको पता है कि यार exams है, number लेंगे तो आप आगे जाएंगे UET में. So it was relatively shorter. So I wish I would have spent more time there. It's a lovely campus in a great setting. तो उसको उस तरह से enjoy करने का मौका नहीं मिला. Although I mean I really like the faculty, the facilities there, the location itself. और उसका जो aura था, a lot of obviously very well-known people, especially in literature वगैरह. I was really impressed with that. So that again, I think we were lucky. अब जो है वो शायद थोड़ा सा situation is bit different, क्योंकि focus शायद उन activity पे कम हो गया है. Literature वैसे भी हमारी society के अंदर कम हो रहा है. उस वक्त I remember art, drama, some those activities are very very common. कुछ ना कुछ हो रहा होता था, which again, to my earlier point, help you becoming a better all-round person, क्योंकि आपका exposure हर तरफ होता है.
Good. उसके बाद फिर आपने इंजीनियरिंग यूनिवर्सिटी में दाखिला लिया. इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियरिंग कैसे चूज की? Why electrical engineering? Just because your dad was an electrical engineer, or something that?
So no, I think again, I mean, थोड़ा सा influence तो मेरे ख्याल में होता है, but he was actually on the power engineering side.
Okay.
So I was quite clear to be in at that time communications. मेरे ख्याल में दो चीजें थी. एक तो जैसे मैंने बताया कि overall trend by then has shifted. उससे पहले civil engineering was always on the top. Merit पे भी number 1 में होती थी, और jobs वगैरह भी civil engineering के काफी होते थे. But then when I sort of entered, उस वक्त तक electrical communication and telecoms का काफी because of the again technology, and then at that time PDCL, अभी mobile उस वक्त launch नहीं हुआ था. तो उसका काफी था. लेकिन जैसे मैंने कहा कि क्योंकि मेरा I felt कि यार this is the area where I always interested in, so that has influence. And then ज़ाहिर वो I was able to get in as well. That helped क्योंकि it was quite competitive to get in. And then no regrets since then, I would say. I mean, we ride that wave. उसके बाद UET में भी काफी जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि exposure के point of view से भी it was interesting times. We have very good faculty as well. बहुत से लोग उस वक्त faculty में भी बाहर से पढ़ के आए थे PhD करके, and a lot of those new ideas were there. So I always heard कि यार electrical के अंदर, I mean, you are ahead of everyone else. Maybe थोड़ा सा bias भी था. और वो that has been the case basically, क्योंकि बहुत सी चीजें जो हैं फिर evolve होती रही, and by the time we graduated, all those mobile companies have also launched. So that becomes additional attraction कि यार I mean these are the coolest jobs. जैसे आजकल AI पे जो fresh graduates जाना चाहते हैं, तो उस जमाने में mobile telephony was the name of the game. Yeah.
बहुत अच्छे. सो अब हम आते हैं आपकी प्रोफेशनल लाइफ के ऊपर. सो आपने when did you graduate? 1991?
92. 92. So it took an extra year, as you know, those.
तो 92 में ग्रेजुएट किया. then what was, how did you get to your first job?
So interesting. So there was this position, or I came to know about, there were two mobile companies at that time, Paktel or Instaphone. So I was lucky that there was a job advert which I saw, Akhbar mein, in fact. उस ज़माने में print was the game, no internet. So I applied, and then they had this whole assessment tests and interviews. तो उससे पहले अगर मैं बताऊं कि 2 साल actually summer में I did my internship. एक वो micro electronics होता था, the company which did PCs at that time, but also HF or UHF का equipment defense के लिए.
कोट लखपत में जो थे.
कोट लखपत, बिल्कुल. So
सोहेल अहमद.
जी. So I spent my summer there. So that was also quite interesting because again, communication and walkie-talkies and the work which they were doing. They're a manufacturing facility, design facility. So I worked in both. So उसकी वजह से थोड़ा सा again I got some exposure which really helped me in that job interview process as well. So my message here is that you have to actually explore, and you need to get out there beyond academics and test things. First to see what interests you, कि आपका अपना interest भी है कि नहीं है, किस चीज़ से fascinate होते हैं, आपका passion कहाँ पर है उस ज़माने में, और ज़रा as a kid, as a student आपको नहीं पता होता. So it's important कि आप मुख्तलिफ चीज़ों पे time लगाएं और देखें कि आपको क्या पसंद है, क्या पसंद आ रहा है. Is it something you want to pursue for the rest of your life, or even for a few years? So वो जब मैंने किया तो वो I think in my head I was very clear कि यार this is the field to be. And then I was lucky कि वो job advert आई and I went to the process or interview वगैरह भी. I was not really the topper of my class. UET में आपको पता है एक से एक बढ़ के intelligent colleagues थे around. But it's just if I reflect back, maybe my passion about the field itself, and जो थोड़ा सा मैंने effort किया summer internships वगैरह करने में या खुद, that gave me that comparative advantage. I remember, it was a bunch of us, maybe 100 के करीब लोगों ने apply किया, they only picked 2 or 3. So it was very, very competitive. So I didn't know आज तक के reason क्या हुई, but that's my guess कि that really helped me get into this job. And then it was quite cool at that time because you get as a perk, you were carrying a mobile phone, right? A mobile phone was not like this one. जो आज का है, was a big one, right?
पूरा एक वो brick वाला,
brick वाला है, Motorola के थे, और I got the Panasonic वो बस्ता जो था, वो जो करके उठता था और उसके साथ. And then I was actually, क्योंकि engineering side पे तो there was a field duty, so they gave us a 4x4 Suzuki Vitara Jeep was there, right? So आपने जब भी जाना है site के ऊपर, तो then you were driving those. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Very good. So पहली जॉब आपकी telecom में ही हुई, and you were a junior engineer at that time. You were working in the field. ये चल रहा है, and that basically is your pathway into the telecom field.
Professional life. Right. Yeah. So उसके साथ I was also again influenced. I would say that I always wanted to go for a higher education. So masters was definitely UET में. I gave those GRE exams and all that के masters के लिए निकला जाए. But then actually I was advised कि थोड़ा सा experience, and because job भी मिल गई, तो मैंने कहा चले 1 साल कम से कम करते हैं job, and then so I applied for the next session, and I got few offers actually US से भी, लेकिन एक program which really fascinated me was actually in mobile and personal communications, mobile personal satellite communications. University of Westminster London का था, and they were just launching this program. So उनका ये था कि it was the first cohort जो वो launch कर रहे थे. When I look at the contents, so again it was all focused on wireless telephony as such. And I said, this is it. I mean, I'm already working in this field. I feel that I have a passion for it. So let's go for it. So I choose London over US. Or I was, मैंने जैसे बताया कि I was dual national as well. So that also was back of my mind कि यार चलो एक तो नज़दीक भी है और so that's how I end up in London at this program, which was quite intense. एक साल का master's program था, but it was quite intense and again it was not easy. I was definitely out of my comfort zone, studying hard. अच्छा मेरे साथ जो बाकी colleagues थे, हमारा पूरा cohort था, बहुत से European थे. And they were not in a rush to finish the program, right? So आपको पहले classes में आपको पता चल गया कि I mean typically they want to spend a year extra. बहुत सबको scholarships मिले हुए थे, अपने अपने EU था उस वक्त तो grants मिलती थी और वो सारा East Europe के बहुत से लोग थे. So I was under pressure, and it's quite interesting actually, a personal story as well. कि when I was applying and choose and decide to go to London, so. Coming from being a son of a faculty member, I mean, we were middle class family. So resources के point of view से, and then there was no scholarship per se, or a partial funding I got a bit later. Like my dad actually, which really moved me, came to me जब मैं जा रहा था, उन्होंने कहा कि बेटा ये I have saved some money for you. So he gave me a checkbook basically, which was signed. जो कि वहाँ के बैंक की थी, and I was surprised. मैंने कहा ये कहाँ से और ये क्यों? I was not expecting it at all. And then my mother told me the story कि when we were there, and obviously a married couple with one son at that time, वो scholarship पे गए हुए थे और वो scholarship जब PhD कर रहे थे, ज़ाहिर it was not enough. Scholarships वैसा tight होते हैं, it was not enough for our family. So my mother saying कि we were saving कि इरफान एक दिन आएगा पढ़ाई के लिए यहाँ पर. So while their other colleagues were going out, उस ज़माने में Bollywood movies was the thing, night out, evening out के लिए, तो she was saying कि we were skipping those evenings to save money, and that simply moved me because of the priorities, right? कि उन्होंने 20-22 साल पहले सोचा कि यार एक दिन what is important for the family. So I was
एहसास की बात है भाई. This is हमारे जो बड़े हैं, हमारे जो आबा अजदाद हैं, उनकी एक तो फिरासत और दूसरी उनकी the sacrifice that they basically put together for their families and everybody else. I think this is a very moving tale.
और उसके साथ साथ I mean the focus, right? The clarity कि education is important, nothing else. I mean not उनका जैसे मैंने कहा कि अपना cut करके to prioritize and think about फिरासत की अपने बात की future. So that really moved me and gave me that. मैंने अपने आप को commit किया कि यार I mean I have to manage without those things. So I and ensure that I can also sort of survive and have confidence in me. So that put extra pressure on me, to be honest, to work hard during that master's program, while everyone else was not in a rush. So I was sitting in the lab doing my project, or was simulations, ComDisco and all that. I mean, it was not easy. In a new country again with a lot of pressure, but alhamdulillah I was able to actually graduate. I was the only one again who did that in that 1 year. I was the only one who graduated from the class, and that was really very, very I would say it shows resilience. But there were moments when I was really depressed and down कि यार ये तो बहुत मुश्किल काम है, हो नहीं सकता. Why I'm rushing too much, why I'm not taking more time. But alhamdulillah I was able to do that. Or interesting enough, God has been kind. देखें अगर आपका अपना नीयत अच्छी हो, इरादा और आप मेहनत करें तो रास्ते निकल आते हैं. तो उस जमाने में वहाँ पर यूके में भी मोबाइल फील्ड के अंदर I mean they gave 2 new licenses क्योंकि the whole GSM was opening up. तो उन्होंने 1800 जो frequency band था उस पे 2 लाइसेंस दिए, एक ऑरेंज को और एक Mercury 121. So Orange were hiring, or at least I came to know about. Again, it was an ad. The future is bright and future is orange. I had no clue what it is. I applied, and I actually applied at Vodafone as well. उनका भी 2 दिन का assessment center. They call you at Newbury, ठहरा के assessment center, psychological tests और सारा. I have no experience of that, to be honest. It was quite strange and again tough for me. But then again, because of my prior experience, I assume I got a role there in engineering at Orange. So that's how I end up working in UK actually in mobile telephony for a company who was just launched at that time. So I was part of the initial team, launch team, which again gave me a great exposure. On the engineering side, I was responsible for planning the network. And again, only Pakistani there. So I was based out of Bristol. So it was quite interesting that at the same time US was opening up. US में उस वक्त एनालॉग स्टैंडर्ड से एम्स के जो अमेरिकन स्टैंडर्ड था, they were not following the GSM standards. CDMA was also there, but quite fragmented. So they issued some licenses, which were PCS licenses, 1900 band के अंदर. I'm talking about mid 90s now, 95, 96 में. It's quite interesting कि हमारी छोटी सी टीम थी, उसमें हमारा जो मैनेजर था इंजीनियरिंग का, डेव जॉन्स उसका नाम था, तो उसने एक मीटिंग कॉल की. एक्चुअली वाज अ रेगुलर मीटिंग ऑन अ मंडे आई गेस. और उसने कहा कि हम 5-6 लोग थे कि गाइस आई हैव टू शेयर समथिंग विद यू, आई हैव गॉट एन ऑफर फ्रॉम यूएस एंड आई एम मूविंग ऑन. अब सब ने हंसना शुरू कर दिया मुंह नीचे करके. रीजन बीइंग कि इट वाज सेम हेड हंटर or approach each one of us and said, there were so many opportunities in US. They were like, and they said, यार you pick कि आपने कहाँ जाना है, because again उनके पास technical skills नहीं थे, क्योंकि यूरोप में ज्यादा थे, क्योंकि 3-4 साल हो चुके थे यूरोप में, और language was a, so rather than going to mainland Europe, I mean they followed UK, I guess. So, but at that time I didn't go there, but subsequently I decided to also go. And joined a company called PowerTel, which becomes a part of T-Mobile later. Okay. So I was based out of Atlanta for a couple of years working for them. So that was my journey into North America, which was again I was comfortable. जैसे मैंने पहले कहा, because of that I think childhood exposure helped me to just, because I was very comfortable. Orange में भी देखें बड़ा अच्छा, I got promoted और सब कुछ. But then I said कि यार why not, let's get some exposure. अच्छा, एक चीज मेरे ज़हन में बहुत क्लियर थी कि यार अमेरिका में मैंने I'm not there long term. So मैं वो ग्रीन कार्ड वगैरह के चक्कर में नहीं था. For some reason I didn't like it, and when I went there, I mean it was established. उस वक्त थोड़ा सा I would say कि glass ceiling भी काफी prominent थी. For desis to go above a certain level, I figure out कि यार it's not that easy. और वो एक old boys club tha, at least that's my experience at that time. Although I was again, and that's where I actually shifted to more commercial side of things. अगर आपको याद हो उस जमाने में location services like E911 का जो था सारा, they were coming up with that. So there was an opportunity, and I had a South African manager actually. So जब मैं टेक्नोलॉजी में वहाँ पर भी पहले काम कर रहा था, तो देयर वाज अ इंटरेस्टिंग कन्वर्सेशन आई हैड विद हिम. वो मेरे पास आया, कंपनी की बहुत बड़ी स्ट्रेटजी का एक सेशन होने जा रहा था, और उसने मुझे कहा कि, एंड आई वाज सॉर्ट ऑफ आई वाज द न्यूएस्ट इन द टीम, मुझे चंद महीने हुए थे अभी. तो he said, Irfan, you're gonna be making a presentation on behalf of the engineering team at the big town hall with the entire company there. I freaked out. I said, "Yeah, why me? First of all," but he said, "I'll tell you later. But you go ahead and get ready." I mean, 2-3 दिन के बाद presentation थी. Those 3 days, I remember, I could not sleep. I was just working hard. I had no exposure, or it was a big thing. But then I did my best. जो मैं कर सकता था, I presented, और उसका ये हुआ कि I got some attention. जो उस वक्त VP and the president of the company, he called me up, and 2-3 दिन के बाद उसके, and then I realized it was a setup. I mean, that my manager, he was planning to go back to South Africa, and then he was pitching me for the role. So he didn't tell me, and he wanted to give me some exposure. It worked actually. So then this guy called me up and said, "Yaar, hum ek commercial mein, we need some people with a technical background to launch new products." So this E911 was the product. So that's how I transitioned into commercial side of things, because then product development, then which includes market assessment, go to market, the full value chain. So then I start working actually in the product and services side of thing. And then since then, there's no looking back, basically. So I moved from technology to commercial side of things, and then get involved into more general management as I moved along. Yeah.
दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट आई हियर ये यंग लोगों के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात है कि जो लोग कस्टमर के जितने करीब होंगे उतनी पावर पोजीशन होती है, या तो आप सेल साइड पे हो, बिजनेस साइड पे हो, या फिर आप टेक्नोलॉजी में जो कस्टमर के साथ इंटरेक्ट करते हैं या कोर चीजें डेवलप करते हैं. सो ऑल ऑफ दोस थिंग्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट इन जनरल टर्म्स. सो एज यू सेड दिस इज हाउ थिंग्स.
और उसके अलावा मेरे ख्याल में आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा कि कस्टमर्स इन फ्रंट एंड, ताकि आपको थोड़ा सा पता भी हो कि यार बिजनेस जिसके आप काम कर रहे हैं वो हो क्या रहा है और कस्टमर्स क्या फील. दूसरा ये कि आई थिंक एज अ इंडिविजुअल आपने यंग लोगों की बात की, उनके लिए बड़ा जरूरी है कि दे पुट देयरसेल्फ इनटू अ अनकंफर्टेबल जोन, राइट. सो मैंने जैसे बताया कि ऑरेंज में आई वाज जस्ट सेटल्ड, आई गॉट प्रमोशन, so I was very comfortable there finally. It was not an easy environment. Imagine that I'm the only Desi at that time in the whole setting. And I'm very Desi, so it was quite an effort to get adjusted. लेकिन जब मैं यूएस भी गया वहां पर भी, एंड देन दिस होल थिंग, मैं अपने मैनेजर का ना भी कह सकता था कि यार मैंने प्रेजेंट नहीं करना टाउन हॉल में या स्ट्रेटजी पे, आप किसी और को कह दें, बट आई जस्ट टुक द चांस. So pushing yourself, and then when I was asked to move into again commercial with no background, I said यार अच्छा देखी जाएगी, सीख लेंगे, मैं एफर्ट कर लेंगे, and then that has आपको बाद में एहसास होता है कि यार that move has really turned out to be a great move for you because आपको exposure मिलता है और वो सारा. So I mean the whole message here is कि आपको you have to push yourself, you need to keep learning. जैसे वो कहते हैं ना कि I mean if you feel कि यार आपको सब कुछ आता है, और वो अगर आप एनालॉजी देखें कुदरत की भी, कि इफ यू आर अ फ्रूट एंड यू फील कि यार आई मीन यू आर राइप, सो व्हाट हैपेंड टू दैट, आई मीन दैट फ्रूट फेल डाउन, राइट. वो एक दिन दरख्त से गिर जाता है नीचे. इफ यू फील कि यू आर ग्रीन, यू कीप ग्रोइंग. सो आई मीन यू हैव टू कंटिन्यूअस लर्निंग, आई थिंक इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, कि यू कीप ऑन लर्निंग न्यू स्किल्स. ये नहीं कि यार आपको अब जॉब मिल गई और अच्छी कंपनी में तो आप लर्न करना छोड़ दें. You have to constantly push yourself into the uncomfortable zone. You need to keep on learning and you need to keep growing, I think. And that's the mindset which is required, I guess.
Very good. तो उसके बाद फिर आप यूएस में आपने चीजें की, उसके बाद how did you get back to Pakistan?
That's an interesting journey. I wanted to go back to Pakistan all along. लेकिन अपॉर्चुनिटीज नहीं थी. सो उसकी रीजन देखें दो थी. एक तो आई थिंक वी ऑल कैन रिलेट टू आवर पेरेंट्स, राइट. सो आई वाज क्लोज टू बीइंग द एल्डेस्ट सन, क्लोज टू स्पेशली माय मदर एट दैट टाइम. शी वाज वेरी कीन के वी शुड बी टुगेदर. लेकिन उसके साथ साथ आई वांटेड टू बी बैक टू हेल्प एंड do something for the country. I mean that has always been a sort of a something at back of my mind. लेकिन उस वक्त I tried and there was no opportunity. Then I asked actually in my network कि यार कोई उस वक्त Ericsson was the one who also actually invested into that company, PowerTel. And was quite unique because Europeans were actually pushing for their standard GSM, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया. और उस दौरान में there was a standards war as well. जब 3G आ रहा था तो 3GPP. So I was actually elected. वो भी एक interesting story है because there was an opportunity. GSM North American Alliance था, जिनका whole purpose is a industry body. Industry body whole focus was कि हम कैसे GSM के जो standards हैं इसको promote करें, and the US was establishing standards for future. At that time 3G was the future. So I was elected as a vice chair of that body because जो बड़े आपके जितने vendors थे, जिसमें उस जमाने में Nortel था या Lucent या Ericsson, Nokia हो गया, they all have their patents in there and they don't want anyone from their side. So they wanted operators who are unbiased basically to come and lead that. So then another fellow, उस वक्त SBC का था, he gave my name and I got elected. So I had a great exposure. I actually went to Congress as well, with obviously right people who were, but on the technical side, to lobby and KR 3G जो standards based on wideband CDMA will be more beneficial for US. Then we did some work. Canada was part of the alliance as well. It was a North American alliance in Ottawa and Montreal actually, जहाँ पर भी establish के जो हमें band मिला हुआ है PCS 1900 का, that's big enough to also carry wideband CDMA. And eventually, the standards were adopted in North America, which actually become the basis of aaj ki jo hamari telecoms hai sara, which is based on those standards. So I got that policy and regulatory exposure while I was there. So there I met people, and I requested कि यार Asia में कोई अगर opportunity है तो मुझे बताओ. Then this opportunity came up with Ericsson because I knew those guys and working with them, who were establishing a new office actually in the Philippines. They said कि Singapore office has a role. They're expanding in the region. And if you're interested, I can put you through and you go through the selection process. So I spoke to those guys. They say, yeah, हमारा तो हो रहा है contract, तो why don't you come? कब आ सकते हो? So then I just packed my bags and said कि मैं आ जा रहा हूँ. So all my colleagues in US, जो भी हमारे दोस्त वगैरह थे, they were very surprised कि यार इतनी अच्छी जॉब अमेरिका छोड़ के कौन जाता है, तुम पागल हो, ये है वो सारा. So I have to, face all that criticism as well. And at that time, I was also not sure कि यार मैं ठीक चीज कर रहा हूँ कि नहीं. Because I was really doing quite well professionally. But I was very clear, जैसे मैंने आपसे पहले अर्ज किया कि अमेरिका में मेरा ये था कि यार एक्सपोजर के लिए बेहतरीन है और आप कुछ अर्सा रहे, but I mean, somehow I wanted to be back in Pakistan and or around Pakistan at least, agar opportunities nahi thi. So then I actually came to Asia, to Singapore, and then they said कि यार go and establish set up in Philippines. ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हमारा चल रहा है इसके ऊपर. एंड आई वाज वेरी, मैं अमेरिका से आ रहा था उस वक्त, पीपल जो क्लाइंट साइड था, दे स्टार्ट सेंडिंग मी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑन एसएमएस, राइट. आई मीन ये फ्रेज के बारे में क्या ख्याल. वी एट दोस टाइम्स वर नॉट यूजिंग एनी मैसेजिंग. वो 10 सेंट्स की कॉल होती थी अमेरिका में, एवरीवन यूज्ड टू कॉल एवरीवन, राइट. एंड देन नो कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ मैसेजिंग. सो आई वाज वेरी, शुरू में तो मुझे बड़ा टाइम लगा एडजस्ट करने में कि यार ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट सीरियस मैटर्स हैं और आप एसएमएस पे भेज रहे हैं. So I ended up in Manila, and it was an interesting thing because weeks later, अभी time भी नहीं ज़्यादा हुआ था, वहाँ पर वो national agitation शुरू हो गई. It was a very famous movement. उनका एक president होता था, Estrada, जो allegedly was corrupt, और वो movie star था, और वो जब president बना तो corrupt practices. So there was no political opposition, but students and white collar workers through their mobile phone start sending messages here, let's gather in the city square to protest against this corrupt ruler. तो मोबाइल के ऊपर इतनी ट्रैफिक जनरेट हुई, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता विद इन डेज वो मूवमेंट बहुत बढ़ गई. उस पर हार्वर्ड का केस भी है, the SMS revolution, और उसकी वजह से eventually he has to go, he has to leave the. So that's quite interesting experience. तो हमने जब नेटवर्क भी डिजाइन किया subsequently, उसमें मैसेजिंग का जो signaling channel की capacity थी, was quite unique in Philippines. You have to really build for that. So हर मुल्क का अपनी interesting dynamics होती हैं. And then आहिस्ता आहिस्ता mobile money was also then there. So उसी दौरान में when I was there, एक conference हो रही थी सिंगापुर में, and I was speaking because of my experience. जैसे मैंने बताया कि UK में भी Orange was the first one in 1800 band. So I thought कि I was riding a deregulation wave, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में भी जब पाक्टल आया, there was a new license which was given. UK में भी, US में भी जो मैंने काम किया, तो I was talking about the telecom deregulation and the market opportunities जो उससे create हुई. इत्फाक से उसी conference I didn't know Dr. Ataur Rahman was the Minister of Science and Technology in Pakistan. So I was speaking and then he was in the room and उनका slot हो चुका था गालबन. So in the break he came to me and start talking कि यार ये तुम बातें जो कर रहे हो यही सब कुछ तो हम पाकिस्तान में करना चाह रहे हैं. We want to open up the country. So will you be interested? That was music to my ear. मैंने कहा why not? So he then said कि यार हम ये position advertise कर रहे हैं, तुम अपना भेजो CV मुझे और मैं I'll make sure कि you are in the panel, or then you should come and appear for the interview. So I did that, and then they offered me as a role as advisor in the ministry for deregulation. So I went back, was very happy कि यार चलो it's a meaningful work. And it was quite interesting times. Musharraf was the president, Shaukat Aziz was the finance minister. And then we start working कि यार पाकिस्तान में deregulation कैसे होनी चाहिए. PTC जो उस वक्त था, limited company नहीं बनी थी, उसको कैसे हमने incumbent को कैसे, there are many proposals actually breaking that as well. जैसे आपका US में baby bells and वो सारा हुआ था. That was one track which was considered. There were other things as well. जिसकी बाद फिर लोकल लूप और LDI के लाइसेंसेस पाकिस्तान में हुए. So I was part of the Ministry of IT and Telecom at that time. और उसके साथ साथ then जब ने मोबाइल की पेनिट्रेशन देखी तो उस जमाने में I'm talking about 2002, पाकिस्तान only had 5 million customers. देखें उस वक्त भी एक 19-20 करोड़ की आबादी में बहुत थोड़े लोग थे जिनके पास मोबाइल, because it was considered as elite. Pricing भी बहुत उसकी expensive थी, and then it was not really a mass market thing. So then the whole premise was कि कैसे we can open up the market. Monopoly थी 2-3 companies की, and they were not investing. How we should open up the market. So I had an interesting exposure. I mean, I went to cabinet as well with Dr. Adai at that time to face interesting politicians who were just saying कि यार ये अच्छा interesting enough उस वक्त जो हमारा GSM का बैंड था उसमें पाकिस्तान एयरफोर्स के 1-2 लिंक्स चल रहे थे जो माइक्रोवेव लिंक्स थे, बहुत लेगेसी. So they have to actually vacate that spectrum band कि उससे पहले कि कोई commercial activity हो सके. So the finance minister at that time, Shaukat Aziz, got it, and he went to the president along with Dr. Atta, उनको convince किया, and he was quite progressive. And they decided कि यार Air Force को हम और accommodate कर लेंगे. We provide them funding for the new equipment, and we just make it available for commercial. So a lot of that interesting work, which was very hard. अगर आप आज के ज़माने में देखते हैं तो ये decisions हो ही नहीं सकते, कई साल नहीं हो सकते, which were taken fairly quickly, in spite of all the opposition. You know, मैं जब 2 इंस्टेंसेस में याद है कैबिनेट पे गया तो बहस ये हो रही थी. एक हमारे खुराक ज़राअत के मिनिस्टर थे, नाम मैं नहीं लूंगा, वो जो मेजर रिटायर्ड थे, उन्होंने कहा जी ये आप एयरफोर्स के कुछ छेड़े हैं तो नेशनल सिक्योरिटी का इशू है, तो हमें ये नहीं करना चाहिए. एक और मिनिस्टर जो हर दौर में रहे हैं, उन्होंने कहा जी मल्टीनेशनल्स आ जाएंगी, वो तो आवाम का खून पहले ही चूस रही हैं, तो आप 2 लाइसेंस को दे रहे हैं, आप 100 लाइसेंस दें और सबको दें, विदाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग की लिमिटेशंस क्या होती है. So you know, but because of the leadership around the people I mentioned, it all prevailed. Deregulation happened. Local loop LDI players came in. Mobile के केस में भी they created space for 2 more new licenses. और उसकी फिर एक बड़ी ट्रांसपेरेंट बिडिंग हुई उस जमाने में. $291 million per license बिका, which was a big thing at that time, back in 2004. So one of the licenses was picked by Telenor. और उस वक्त again because of my work which I've been doing in different places, so I knew some people. उन्होंने जो M&A का हेड था उस वक्त Telenor का, he was actually known to me. So वो पहले भी मेरे पास actually I reached out to him and said कि यार ये पाकिस्तान में deregulation होने जा रही है. If you guys are looking at, I knew that they were expanding in Bangladesh, Thailand, and Malaysia, and Asia as well. So they had a focus on Asia. So I said कि यार ये पाकिस्तान को भी देख लो, ये पॉलिसी है, ये हमने उस वक्त इंटरनेट पर डाली हुई थी, कंसल्टेशन प्रोसेस चल रहा था. He got interested and then said कि मैं आता हूँ और आके हम एक्सप्लोर करते हैं. So I mean they made a couple of rounds and had a lot of questions. But because the policy was quite good, I mean we were supported by World Bank at that time, जिसकी वजह से फिर ये हुआ कि when they got interested and they were one of the highest bidders to pick up the license. So जब जिस दिन ये लाइसेंस मिला तो then उसी दिन शाम को वो कहता है यार तुम क्या कर रहे हो. मैं क्या, मैं तो फारिग हूँ, आज लंबा दिन था और वो सारा. So we had a coffee, I remember, at Marriott, and he said कि यार ना लाइसेंस तो ले लिया, अब हमने करना क्या है. So the only person we know in Pakistan is you. Why don't you join and set it up? So by then I was not really prepared. लेकिन then I went back and start thinking. मैं क्या, मेरा गवर्नमेंट में काम हो गया, क्योंकि ये जो deregulation भी हो गई, licensing भी हो गई, अब मैंने और क्या करना है. I mean the impact is there. So I've done my job. I'm a private sector person. So next day I called him and said yes, I will join after my notice period was Sara. So that's how we actually started Telenor in Pakistan. So I was the first employee. I was the only one on ground. This was the first license actually outside their home market, जो कि नॉर्वे की मार्केट थी. और because जो बाकी मुल्कों में जब ये गए, मलेशिया में गए, थाईलैंड में, तो they did JVs with the existing players. बांग्लादेश में प्रोफेसर यूनुस जो नोबेल पीस लॉरिएट हैं, उनका ग्रामीण टेलीकॉम का सेटअप था. he set it up for the village ladies. So Telenor went there and said कि हम इसको प्रोफेशनलाइज करते हैं, स्केल अप करते हैं. But setup was already there, and unlike Pakistan, which was just a paper of license. So we have to hire people. मुझे याद है एक बहुत छोटा सा हमारा like a business center में हमने शुरू किया काम, और उस वक्त within days we had CVs जो इतना ढेर लग गया, and then we have to also do. Then a lot of people start coming in headquarters से भी different roles के लिए project team establish हुई. Yeah, but I was again the first one local, so I was getting involved in everything. के ऑफिस कहाँ लेना है, टावर्स कहाँ लगेंगे, एक्सचेंज MSC कहाँ बनेगी हमारी, हायरिंग के अंदर क्या होगा, and then आहिस्ता आहिस्ता go to marketing और media agency क्या होगा, everything. So it was a great experience. It's like a startup backed by a corporate, right? So,
yeah.
So when I see this and I say to people as well, I mean, it was actually the whole passion was so much. Actually, interesting enough, we gave a very ambitious deadline to launch. And we made it public कि यार हम 9 महीने के अंदर launch कर देंगे, and country like Pakistan with huge, so basically we underestimated the challenges. हो क्या रहा था कि हमारा जो उस वक्त competitors थे, they also, I mean, were politically quite influenced, and they also tried to sort of block in many ways कि competition ना आए, और उसकी वजह से many things were derailed. There were legal battles. Ministry ने जो रूल्स निकाले हुए थे वो चेंज कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज इनिशियली इट वाज कि जी आप टावर शेयर कर सकते हैं, बट देन दीज पीपल वेंट हप इन द पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम एंड सेड कि इसको आप मैंडेट ना करें, इसको आप बाय चॉइस करते हैं, अगर कमर्शियल टर्म्स पे और बाय चॉइस हो तो उसका मतलब ये था कि होगा नहीं, एंड देन दैट वाज डन पोस्ट व्हिच वाज अगेन अ सेटबैक बिकॉज वी वर होपिंग कि यार हम तो टावर शेयर कर लेंगे और हमें इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रोल आउट जल्दी हो जाएगा, बट खैर एनीवेज. But the passion was there. By that time, we had like few hundred employees and all that, and we had that launch date. So I remember, just like startups, we were working, 7 days a week. 12-15 घंटे काम हो रहा है रोज. Everyone was so committed to the mission. And the mission was कि यार हमने अपना services launch करनी है, because we had a very clear plan कि how we disrupt the market जो कि ineffective, inefficient रही है. Pricing में transparency नहीं थी. कॉल रिसीव करने के पैसे होते थे, लाहौर से कराची आप कॉल कर रहे हैं तो आपको लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस चार्जेस भी पड़ते थे ऑन टॉप ऑफ द रेगुलर, many of those issues, and we had a lot of experiences, so we were very clear कि यार ये तो we will just come and reset the whole thing. जिसमें इनोवेशन की भी मैं अगर बात करता जाऊं तो इवन उस जमाने में all of that जो अगर आपने लोड करना है तो ये वो स्क्रैच कार्ड्स होंगी. So electronic recharge नहीं होता था. I'm talking about 2004 Pakistan. People all had to do by 100 rupees or 50 rupees scratch card, उसको करें, आप कोड डालें और अपना prepaid में balance आप डालते थे. So we were the first one who came up with the electronic recharge, easy load जिसका नाम, and it becomes a category name even today. Even competitors भी तो वो कहते हैं easy load कर दें, and many of those first time. So we come up very simple pricing throughout the country. And the other thing which we did is, again, based on the market research, और आप जो पहले कह रहे थे कि listen to the customers. What are the pain points? तो हमने भी did a full market research at that time कि इस वक्त पाकिस्तान के issues हैं क्या और हम उसको कैसे build कर सकते हैं. So we realized कि यार अगर ये तो this is confined to KLI, कराची, लाहौर, इस्लामाबाद तक है अच्छी coverage, बाहर छोटे शहरों में तो आपको coverage में नहीं है, तो we decided to build network outside in कि tier 2 and tier 3 cities में भी हम network लेके जाएं. So that has really helped because we were sort of the first one in those areas and we were able to capture. So we launched in March 2005 commercial services, and then within no time I was responsible for strategy and corporate development at that time. So within 2 years we hit 10 million customers, which was quite remarkable beyond our own estimates as well, because हमारा ख्याल था कि यार मार्केट में 5-6 customers अभी तक आए हैं पिछले 10 सालों में. So we'll be lucky if we have 5 in next 5 years, but we hit 10 million. Obviously, the ARPU, the revenue per customer was, or per user was low, but number was massive. So we have to pivot our own strategy. Then we assume कि यार cost को हमने नीचे लेके आना है. Sachet packing, there are a lot of learnings जो हमने भी की during that journey. उसमें यह था कि पाकिस्तान में disposable income का issue रहा हमेशा से, और उस वक्त भी बहुत था. People don't have money to commit to a monthly plans, जैसे आप नॉर्थ अमेरिका में देखते हैं कि पोस्टपेड बहुत ज्यादा है. So it was quite evident कि it's a prepaid market. People can only afford to pay for 1 day or they can have balance for 3 or 4 days. तो दूसरे तीसरे दिन जाएंगे दुकान पे, जो थोड़ी बहुत सेविंग होगी उससे टॉप अप करेंगे. So we have to come up with sachet packs, day pack, और इस किस्म की चीजें. So a lot of innovation to me is what is relative to the market, right? It's not कि आपने कोई rocket science है या आपने कोई बड़ा cutting edge technology को करना है. आपने customers के point of view से देखना है कि what is innovation for them. How can you provide them convenient products and services?
No, बहुत जबरदस्त, because that is also a message for the young people कि आपका customer connection जो है will determine आपकी solutions for the local market, and that would be basically the element for your success. So उधर ही innovation करनी है, उधर ही उसको prove करना है. That is the whole thing.
जी जी बिल्कुल. और you have to actually think it from the customer's lens and not necessarily your lens कि आप क्या चाहते हैं. Normally होता है कि especially technology world में, if you're a technology company, you're so excited about what can be built, but you forget कि यार I mean who you're building for. क्या वो ready भी है कि नहीं है? Are you ahead of time? Or then the business model itself, how you, जैसे मैंने pricing की बात की, it was very important क्योंकि अब हमारा भी देखें principles और Europeans, I mean Scandinavia is one of the richest part of the world, जहाँ पर people, I mean हमारा जो मैं ARPU की बात कर रहा हूँ वहाँ पर was one of the highest, US से भी ज़्यादा monthly commitment है लोगों की towards telephony or telecoms in general and connectivity. So it was very difficult for them to also understand कि यार markets, how these markets are different. People who cannot even afford to commit for a week, right? So आपको कैसे और किस किस्म की products आपको करनी है, and then convenience, right? So I mean जैसे मैंने कहा कि electronic recharge was a big thing then. Then I was quite interesting because of my role. I was always thinking, यार what is next? ये तो अब हो जाएगा आहिस्ता आहिस्ता. We kept on building the network, taking it to smaller cities and towns. Lekin what is next? It was part of my role as well to look for the next big thing. So once it's quite an interesting story. मैं travel कर रहा था southern Punjab में. अच्छा एक और चीज मैंने फिर काफी religiously follow की. I used to travel from Karachi to Peshawar by road once a year at least, along with my team. So पूरी team को ले जाके we had those luxury coaches. जिसमें we were just traveling और idea ये था कि यार just make stops. We had because हमारा network भी पूरे पाकिस्तान में फैल गया आहिस्ता आहिस्ता. So we had our own offices, small offices, but also distributor partners, but also meet customers. ताकि आपको Pakistan is a huge country. Each region is different. उसके dynamics काफी फर्क हैं. So you need to really understand कि किस इलाके की क्या dynamics है, money flows कैसे हैं, लोग consume कैसे करते हैं, उनकी needs क्या हैं. तो all those things, smaller differences. So you need to be granular. So मैं एक दफा travel कर रहा था इसी तरह की trip पे. तो southern पंजाब में I remember कि वो गंदम की कटाई का मौसम था. तो I met a बुजुर्ग जो मेरे और आपके नजदीक वो अनपढ़ थे बिल्कुल. So I had a conversation with him. But I was really impressed कि यार he is so literate from a numeric viewpoint क्योंकि वो इतना ज़्यादा price conscious थे कि वो हर कॉल के बाद चेक करते थे कि मेरा कितना बैलेंस कटा. अच्छा. You and I will not do that, right? और corporates bill pay कर रहे हैं तो हम will not bother. लेकिन उनको ये पता था यार कि *786 हैश वाली जो ऑफर है वो उससे बेहतर है और उसमें आपको ₹1 का फायदा हो रहा है फॉर एग्जांपल. So I was really impressed. मैंने कहा बाबा जी ये सब चीजें आपको पता है, मतलब तो ये कैसे आपने सीखा और बैंक किधर करते हैं? तो जो मैंने बैंक का लफ्ज इस्तेमाल किया तो कहता पुत्र है बैंक की होता. सो आई वाज रियली सरप्राइज कि यार इनको बैंक का नहीं पता है, बट गाय इज सो नंबर्स में ही इज शार्प एंड ही नोज. सो दैट came to me यार people carrying mobile phones, not using it for productivity and Sara, how can we really help them? Then I went back and looked at some numbers. At that time, that must be 2007-8, 2008, 70% of Pakistanis were unbanked or underbanked. Achha. 70%. Wow. It's a huge number. और आज भी कुछ progress हुई है, but बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं हुई. So I was shocked कि यार ये कैसे हो सकता है and how can we? So then this occurred to me, and to be fair, there was a mobile money concept already जिसकी बड़ा चर्चा हो रहा था केन्या में. M-Pesa. So I said, यार अगर ये केन्या में हो सकता तो पाकिस्तान में क्यों नहीं हो सकता? So I went and asked my boss at that time कि यार this is a great idea. People have now start using mobile phones. Let's convert them into mobile banking as well. हम देखते थे कि यार अगर आपको भी याद होगा उस जमाने में अगर आप घर से किसी को बिल देने के लिए भेजते थे तो बंदा शाम को वापस आता था क्योंकि बैंक के बाहर क्यूज इतनी लंबी लगी होती थी बिल जमा करवाने. So and then the access to finances and all that. So I was able to convince my boss. He said, "Yeah, let's take it to the हमारा corporate board होता था उसके अंदर कि जो भी नए projects या venture करने हैं, you have to go there to get the approval." So I went there with a proposal, very excited कि यार passionate, वो नॉर्वे में था, ओस्लो में. So I traveled there, try to convince them. They start asking me questions कि यार, this is a mobile money business you're talking about. We are a telecoms company.
Right.
This is a one war का जमाना था सारा. There's a link to the the terrorism and all that and money flows and AML and KYC की requirements सारी हम कैसे. There's a huge risk. What are the regulations? आप कैसे करेंगे ये? उस वक्त कोई regulations नहीं थे पाकिस्तान. So I was given a pushback and sent back कि यार आप जाएं, ये आप क्या लेके आ गए? So मैंने कहा यार ये तो ठीक है, fine, fair questions. So I start working with those कि यार इनके addresses कैसे करें? Mainly was risk and reputation risk. रेपुटेशन रिस्क होगा, इतनी बड़ी कंपनी है, अगर किसी ने $100 भी गलत भेज दिए तो कल को न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स में खबर लग जाएगी कि ये कंपनी जो है ये सपोर्ट कर रही है मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग को, फॉर एग्जांपल. तो उसको आप कैसे चेक करेंगे? देन आई वेंट टू स्टेट बैंक एंड सेट के उनसे पूछा कि हम कैसे कर सकते हैं. उन्होंने कहा आप तो टेलीकॉम्स है, आप नहीं कर सकते, तो बैंकिंग का काम है. तो बैंकिंग कैसे, बैंक्स कैसे कर रहे हैं? अभी तक तो आपने कुछ नहीं किया. बड़े शहरों के अलावा बैंक्स की ब्रांचेस ही नहीं है. एट दैट टाइम देयर वाज अ वेरी प्रोग्रेसिव गवर्नर देयर हु सेड कि क्या किया जाए. I told him about this M-Pesa thing. He said, "Okay, let's do a consultative group, industry का भी और मेरे अपने team भी, and we figure out कि क्या regulations होने चाहिए." So with that interaction, we come up with something called branchless banking regulations. So branchless banking mean कि आपको brick and mortar की जरूरत नहीं है. But then they put some conditions कि आप as a telco नहीं कर सकते, you have to have a banking license. So जब वो क्लियर हो गए, रेगुलेशंस बन गए, तो आई वेंट बैक टू आवर बोर्ड अगेन एंड सेड कि यार देखें अब तो रेगुलेशंस भी आ गए हैं और ये इस तरह से हम रिस्क को मिटिगेट करेंगे. तो देन मैंने कहा यार ये फिर आ गया, तो ये अलाउड मी टू डू अ पायलट विद लिमिटेड एक्सपोजर. तो दैट्स हाउ इजी पैसा वाज बोर्न. सो इजी पैसा वाज जो होते हैं ना इनोवेशन, आप कॉर्पोरेट्स के अंदर ही करते हैं. यार अच्छा आपने साइड पे शॉप बनाई, अब आपने क्या करना है नेक्स्ट? एडजेसेंट रेवेन्यूज कहाँ से आएंगे? आपके रेवेन्यू टेपर हो जाएंगे एक दिन, तो आप कहां से ग्रोथ कहां से लेके आएंगे? तो इजी पैसा वाज दैट वाइल्ड आइडिया एट दैट टाइम. एंड वी लुक्ड एट फ्यू अदर थिंग्स एज वेल व्हिच आई विल टॉक लेटर. बट सो इट वाज विद इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. वी स्टार्टेड अप एक माइक्रो फाइनेंस बैंक में हमें इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ा टू मीट द लाइसेंस रिक्वायरमेंट्स. बट देन बिकम्स अ बिग क्वेश्चन जब हमने इसको सारा प्लान भी किया कि नो वन वाज अवेयर ऑफ डिजिटल मनी इन पाकिस्तान. पीपल कुड नॉट ट्रस्ट कि यार आप वॉलेट में पैसे डालेंगे और आपकी फैमिली को गांव में मिल जाएंगे. लिटरेसी का भी इशू था, अवेयरनेस का भी इशू था. वी स्पेंड लॉट ऑफ टाइम, मनी, बिल्ड द ब्रांड, ट्रस्ट के अराउंड के यार यू कैन सेंड मनी, यू डोंट हैव टू स्टे इन क्यूज टू पे योर बिल्स. इफ योर फैमिली, इफ यू वर लिविंग इन कराची एंड फैमिलीज इन स्वात, यू कैन स्टिल सेंड मनी, टच ऑन द बटन. लेकिन वो उस तरह से नहीं हुआ जिस तरह से हम सोच रहे थे. इट ऑल बिकम अ ओवर द काउंटर सर्विस. After a few years, we were dealing billions of rupees in cash, जो लोग काउंटर पे लेके आते थे, क्योंकि वो रिटेलर को वो कम से कम गले से पकड़ सकते थे अगर पैसे दूसरे एंड पे नहीं मिलेंगे. ट्रस्ट का इशू है ना. तो दे नो कि यार हाँ कि ये मोबाइल कंपनी है, मोबाइल में कैसे डालेंगे. तो हमने कहा यार ये क्या हो रहा है. I mean, we don't want to handle billions of cash, उसके अपने रिस्क और सिक्योरिटी के और वो सब चीजें. So, but I mean, my point is कि कई दफा जैसे हमने भी शुरू में भी सोचा कि यार इतनी ग्रोथ होगी, लेकिन आप मार्केट आपको और रिस्पॉन्स देती है. So you have to really pivot and you have to also understand कि क्या हो रहा है और आप उसमें कैसे बेहतर लेवरेज कर सकते हैं. And sometimes you are ahead of time, as we were in mobile money as well, कि पाकिस्तान में किसी को पता ही नहीं डिजिटल मनी क्या होती है एक जमाने में. तो आपको ज़ाहिर है पहले अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करनी है, ब्रांड बिल्ड करना है, ट्रस्ट बिल्ड करना है, जो कम्स ओवर टाइम, and then you have to take it. So anyway, fast forward. Also, then we realized that we need better control. So we bought the 100% stake in the microfinance bank. It was a microfinance license which we started with, which gives you limitations. Like it was easier to get. Uski obligations भी कम थी और वो सारा. Then I was sent to my headquarters for a couple of years. Then the corporate realized that you have done your job in Pakistan, so for the next level we need to have a so again another point in time where I was very comfortable. I was enjoying उस वक्त मोबाइल का boom था, पूरे पाकिस्तान में. By then we become the best employer. जिसको जॉब चाहिए होती थी वो टेलीनॉर में आना चाहता था. I was enjoying a great life, but then asked कि यार हेडक्वार्टर चले जाओ नॉर्वे में जहाँ पर -20 टेम्परेचर होता है और 2 साल लगाए आप वहां पर बिकॉज in order to grow basically I mean उनका क्या आइडिया था कि we need to know you and test you outside your home market. अपने अपने होम मार्केट में तो काम कर लिया बट आई मीन इफ यू वांट टू बी एन इंटरनेशनल एग्जीक्यूटिव सो उनके एंड पे भी मेरे ख्याल में वो ट्रस्ट इट वाज आल्सो फैक्टर कि यार जब तक आपको हम और अच्छी तरह से नहीं परखेंगे अब आपको और जिम्मेदारियां नहीं दे सकते सो दे नो वन टोल्ड मी दैट बट दैट वाज सॉर्ट ऑफ द बैक ऑफ द माइंड एज वेल सो अगेन आई रेज माय हैंड एंड सेड यार कब जाना है बताएं सो we ended up there with 3 kids at that time or in a cold Norway where some of the people even told us कुछ पाकिस्तानी थे काफी सालों से वहां रह रहे तो मेरी वैसे वो एक प्री असाइनमेंट ट्रिप पे मैं गया तो किसी से मुलाकात हुई किसी के रेफरेंस से उन्होंने कहा ये तो बड़ा सर्दियों में डिप्रेसिंग होता है तो आप ना एंटी डेस्परेट मेडिसिन वगैरह भी लेके आए पाकिस्तान से यार ये किधर फंस रहे हैं सो बट वी वेंट देयर एंड एम्ब्रेस इट आई टोल्ड माय वाइफ कि यार इसको हमने ना because we have limited time we need to explore the country we need to explore the region Scandinavia to the extent we start learning skiing अब इस उम्र में या उस उम्र में स्की करना भी तो our kids were I mean within days they were like natural skiers मैं और वाइफ हम बेचारे थोड़ा सा आगे जाते थे गिर जाते थे बचते हंसते थे मुड़ के में देखते थे तो but we had fun as a family and temperature didn't bother us we embraced that thing we were not sitting at home a single day जब भी मौका मिलता था गाड़ी पकड़ी और निकल के नई जगह नए मुल्क देख रहे हैं एक्सप्लोर कर रहे हैं वो सब चीजें so again you need to again be the explorer I think the mindset is very important कि अगर आप उसको उस मेरे दोस्त के एंगल से देखेंगे जिसको ये विंटर्स बड़ा लगता है कि आपने आपको कन्फाइन कर लें घर में हीटिंग के अंदर बैठे और then it's a very different opportunities and it's a different lens you will see as compared to when you get out there and explore yourself. Right. So it was quite interesting experience. I was responsible for the devices, a big budget, about €1 billion budget tha mere unit ka. So also a lot of interesting learnings. Norway is a small country, right? But I mean, in their minds, they thought कि यार हम market leader हैं. Telenor was the incumbent there. 150 साल की history है. So जब Apple का जो पहला iPhone launch हुआ 2008 में So they did not sign up with Telenor. They signed up with our competitor, Telia, जो स्वीडन की कंपनी थी. अच्छा. उसके साथ उन्होंने रीजनल डील की. It was a big thing. So when this hit, they start losing customers. ज़ाहिर contracts थे और जब उनको मोबाइल फोन हम ऑफर नहीं आईफोन कर सकते थे. So that's when this unit was created and I was assigned कि यार तुमने ऐड करना है और ये डील लेके आनी है. So Cupertino उस जमाने में I mean Apple was quite arrogant. telcos की तरफ वो बात भी नहीं करते थे. They did not have a big team. So my boss at that time was the EVP of the region. He said कि यार चलो चलते हैं उनसे मिलते हैं. He thought कि यार हम इतने बड़े हैं कि वो रेड कारपेट बिछा के हमारा इस्तेमाल करेंगे. So I remember we waited to get a meeting, and then the lawyers and all that were saying यार हमारा ये जो exclusivity contract तब खत्म हो रहा है उसके बाद हम आपसे बात करेंगे. I was quite arrogant. So that was also a reality check. But then, alhamdulillah, we were able to manage. So it was a great exposure. At the same time, when this whole Steve Elop came to Nokia, which was a Finnish company, and we are very close to them at that time. So we also see a company going down and the rise of another one very closely because I was responsible for this business. And then a couple of years later, there was another role which I was assigned to was in Thailand, जो कि हमारा regional office था एशिया का. Head of distribution for Asia. So we had 6 markets then, including India, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Malaysia, and Thailand. Jisme phir I was responsible for distribution, implying the same systems, common practices. So we lived there for a couple of years. And then I was sent back to Pakistan. Again, at that time, the company was not doing well. Business, हमने वो होता ना शुरू का फेज आपका कि आपने 10 साल आपने ग्रो किया सारा कंपनी बिकम कंप्लेसेंट. तो वो वाला फेज से आई थिंक हम गुजर रहे थे उस वक्त और कंपटीशन भी तब तक शार्प हो चुका था. दे आल्सो रियलाइज कि यार अब वी हैव टू इन्वेस्ट और सारा. सो इट वाज अ वेरी कट थ्रोट मार्केट. सो आई वाज सेंट बैक एज अ चीफ कमर्शियल ऑफिसर एट दैट टाइम. जो हमारा रीजनल उसने मुझे एक ही टास्क दिया था कि यार मार्केट शेयर टर्न अराउंड करना है कंपनी को. सो दैट वाज नॉट ट्रिवियल बट इट वाज क्वाइट इंटरेस्टिंग चैलेंज. आई रियली एंजॉयड दैट वन बिकॉज उसमें सबसे पहले तो again I went back to the customers, our retailers, the market. I spent couple of months just understanding का हो क्या रहा है, rather I do something. So I said कि यार मैं 100 day का प्लान दूंगा, उसके बाद मैं बताऊंगा, उससे पहले मुझे टाइम चाहिए कि करना क्या है. So I was able to see कि यार it was a clutter in the market. No one stands out. There was a lot of price positions, but there was also a lot of hidden charges. By then, we start building, hidden charges, including our company. And then I also realized that there were silos. टेक्नोलॉजी के लोग कमर्शियल के लोगों से बात नहीं कर रहे, अपना अपना वो लगे हुए हैं, जैसे एक ट्रेडिशनल एक मैच्योर कंपनी में हो जाता है. व्हेन यू आर अ स्टार्टअप, आप बहुत नजदीक होते हैं, कॉमन मिशन होता है, आप एक दूसरे से कोलैबोरेशन बहुत अच्छी होती है. When you become really big, dinosaur, I would say, because it was a sizable company by then, we had about 40 million customers. So those issues were there. So I did three things. First of all, I said कि यार हमें अपनी market position बिल्कुल brand को relaunch करना है. And the whole positioning was not just the brand. उसके पीछे जो premise था वो ये था कि we become a very transparent company. So we come with this logo, which was Sachi Yari, Sab Pe Bhari, and TalkShock was a sub brand which was launched, which was more about simple, transparent pricing, which was the time when we launched. During the journey, we deviated, बहुत से hidden charges, revenue किसको बुरा लगता आता हुआ, recurring charges, ऑटो रिकरिंग पे आके किसी ने पैकेज किया, लगाया कोई रिंग टोन्स का या कुछ और, तो उसको एक महीने के लिए लगाया, तो आप ऑटो रिन्यूअल पे अगले महीने भी खुद ही लगा देंगे उसको. Those sort of things. So and then I did what is called a cluster-based model. So I divided Pakistan into 300 territories because we had 300 distributors. And we said कि यार टेक्नोलॉजी के लोग, जो आपका इंजीनियर है, जो सेल्स का बंदा है, इन सबके कॉमन KPIs होंगे वहां पर. The technical guy is responsible for sales as well, and the sales guy is responsible कि network का uptime क्या होगा, quality की क्या होंगे parameters वगैरह. So everyone freaked out कि यार हमें तो पता ही नहीं, हमारा mandate है ना, tools हैं, तो हम ये कैसे करेंगे. But the whole idea is that they should come together and jointly solve those issues. Take the ownership. Take the ownership of it. And then I also changed the incentive systems, जो कि पहले annual incentives है, very quarterly हमने align किया. Every morning we had a great data team, उसको business intelligence को use करते हुए. Every morning जब आप 9 बजे आप ऑफिस पहुंचते हैं, तो there was a sales figure of yesterday. हमारा टारगेट ये था, अचीव ये किया आपने, original breakdown के साथ. And I started a war room at 9 o'clock where everyone was dialing in and talking about the performance, and we pick up the ones who had the most deviations from. तो वो उससे ये हुआ कि focus on execution, the right strategy, which was quite different, collaboration, common incentives. So within months, within 2 quarters, we were able to turn around. We actually disrupt the market, true sense में. We gained quite significant market share. Telenor became number 1 in market share at that time. So it's quite interesting to see. और मेरे लिए सबसे ज़्यादा joy ये था कि every morning you wake up and you see कि यार जो आप कर रहे हैं उसके results आ रहे हैं, hands-on operational things. And I really enjoyed it. Again, traveling the country, motivating the people, leadership पर बहुत ज़्यादा focus दिया कि लोगों को कैसे बताया जाए कि यार you are actually mini CEOs in your territory. लोग टेलीनॉर को आपकी वजह से जानते हैं, जो रिटेलर्स हैं, पार्टनर्स हैं, बिजनेस पार्टनर्स हैं, कस्टमर्स हैं, ना कि वो लोग जो इस्लामाबाद में बैठे हैं उनको कोई नहीं जानता. So I mean, it was a whole campaign. It was a very successful turnaround. I was rewarded and I became a CEO of the company. Then I also decided कि यार easy पैसा पे, I mean, by then we have seen कि यार this over-the-counter business is not what we want. So I started looking for the best partner and realized कि यार सब कुछ आप खुद नहीं कर सकते. You have to build partnerships. So I commissioned a project. Let's look for a partner who can come and join us in this venture. By then हम उसको spin off कर चुके थे. जो venture main company के अंदर शुरू हुई थी, it becomes a separate legal entity. And then we signed up with Ant Group, जो कि Alipay है, Alibaba Group का, because they're the largest fintech, and we convinced them to come and invest in Pakistan with us. And हमारा ये था ख्याल कि यार they are the ones who have the technology, experience and know-how, and let's team up with the. So आज Easy Paisa is like 55% owned by Telenor, 45% owned by Ant. They bring in their technology, which is one of the best globally. और उसका भी ये फायदा हुआ कि we become the largest digital bank. Actually, we got the license last year. State Bank ने भी यही effort देखा और वो सारा, so they issued We were the only one out of the existing players who got this license. और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह आज जो अगर मैं आपको 2025 के figures बताऊं तो we did about 5 billion transactions, about 15 trillion, 16 trillion rupees on our platform, which is 15% of Pakistan GDP on Easy Paisa platform.
बहुत बड़ा नंबर है।
जी जी, impact उसका अगर आप देखें, and then the best thing to me is the empowerment part. अगर आप देखें कि ख़वातीन तकरीबन एक तिहाई हमारे कस्टमर्स आर फीमेल, जो घरों में हमारे सोशल कल्चरल इश्यूज हैं, आप बैंक अकाउंट नहीं खोल सकते, घरों से बाहर नहीं जा सकते, अगर आप बिजनेस भी कर रहे हैं, so now they are financially empowered. Then we start doing based on the credit scoring on the data model, nano loans. So today we disburse about from 60 to 70,000 loans a day based on credit scoring. So we started into wealth products. Abhi now, by virtue of the digital bank, we are doing now cross-border products, payments, international remittance, saving, blockchain. Pe we just did a pilot between Malaysia because of our telco presence. Malaysia में भी है and Pakistan. Just mean you can send money on a blockchain 24/7 without any middlemen at a very good rate. So these are like the fruits of technology and कैसे आप उसको adopt करते हैं इसके अंदर. So we are excited, very excited about the future of that. And उसके impact देखेंगे. I mean, now we have every fourth Pakistani is an Easy Paisa customer today. We have close to 60 million customers.
60 million.
With the largest app outside the international apps को छोड़ के local apps में, with the highest number of monthly active users on that app. Financially, we are empowering people. And we hear stories जिसमें आप लोगों की लाइव्स को इम्पैक्ट कोविड के बीच में अगर आप देखें फ्रॉम एजुकेशन व्यू पॉइंट, फॉर हेल्थ व्यू पॉइंट, इवन मेडिकल इमरजेंसीज, वी आर एबल टू लॉन्च हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस फर्स्ट इन द मार्केट. अगर आप पाकिस्तान में पब्लिक सेक्टर के लिए काम नहीं कर रहे हैं या मल्टीनेशनल्स के लिए नहीं है तो देयर इज नो इंश्योरेंस कवर. देयर आर मेनी एसएमईज जिनके पास कोई एक्सेस नहीं है इसके लिए. पीपल हैव अ ह्यूज इशू विद दैट, सो वी कम अप विद द हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट्स देयर. People have huge issue with collateral as well. अगर आप बैंकों से लोन लेने के लिए जाते हैं तो अपनी जमीन के कागज और वो सब चीजें, and then you have to do very traditional way. It takes ages to get approvals. आपको बैंक से entertain नहीं करते. With the digitization now and the credit scoring, we are actually empowering people, and millions of people with those loans. So I think these are the real fruits of digitizing, and I think we're just scratching the surface. Even the number sounds very high. But I think the need is so, and now अभी हम बहुत ज़्यादा फोकस कर रहे हैं कि मर्चेंट की पेमेंट्स QR के ऊपर. अगर आप पूरी दुनिया में देखें, डिजिटल पेमेंट्स बहुत तेजी से बढ़ी हैं. पाकिस्तान इज स्टिल अ वेरी बिग कैश इकोनॉमी. 12-13 ट्रिलियन रुपीस कैश सर्कुलेशन में है, विच इज वेरी इट्स अ वेस्ट. लेकिन नोट स्टेट बैंक को छापने पड़ते हैं, उसकी कलेक्शन है, आधे ज़ाया हो जाते हैं, फ्रॉड के इश्यूज है, फेक करेंसी है, मेनी ऑफ दोज प्रॉब्लम्स एज वेल. टैक्स नेट में लोग नहीं आते, so you don't document your economy by having a cash economy. So all those things I think helps when you digitize your ecosystem. So I think there's a big revolution, silent revolution, which is happening, and we are very proud that we are humbly contributing our bit, because एक company काम नहीं कर सकती सारा. इतना बड़ा opportunity है, इतना बड़ी challenges हैं. आज भी अगर आप देखें बहुत से लोग financial inclusion में नहीं हैं. So I think lot has to, and there उसके साथ साथ innovation जो है वो बहुत ज्यादा हो रही है इस फील्ड के अंदर. So we're seeing startups coming up with their very niche products. We are also embedded or doing a lot of partnerships with those startups as well. वो fintech के मुख्तलिफ ideas हैं लोगों के पास, and they're coming with those ideas. So I think we see ourselves as a platform business. जिसमें we have those 50 or 9 or 60 million customers. So we can connect those customers with startups. We have good idea. We give them access to those through APIs and all that. And this has all started happening in Pakistan now.
Excellent. This is very, very, very powerful, very impressive, Irfan. Ab main, because we're getting running out of time, I want to get your perspective. At least आपके जो purview है, आपकी जो expertise है, आपका जो area है, उसमें हमारे young लोगों को बताइए, both on fintech side, application side, as well as telecom side, कि what are the messages that you would tell them?
जी, देखिए जो मैंने देखा है, we also launched Telenor Velocity for one of the first accelerator in Pakistan as well. So I've interacted a lot with the startups. Also, Founders Institute के through TAI, I'm the charter member there for many years. So मैंने जो देखा जी सबसे पहले ये कि we're not thinking big. So we're still confining ourselves to smaller opportunity. So we need to really think being big. We need to think beyond Pakistan market. अगर आप पाकिस्तान में बैठे हुए हैं, we need to think global because आज it doesn't matter कि आप मुल्तान में हैं, मर्दान में या मैड्रिड में हैं. If you have a good idea, you can implement those, and your reach is global. So I think that's first and foremost. Secondly, I've also seen that there is no shortcuts in life. You have to do hard work every day. There's no shortcuts. जैसे मैंने पहले अर्ज किया कि you have to raise your hand. You need to be constant learning attitude होना चाहिए mindset आपका. You have to be uncomfortable at time. You have to push yourself. दूसरा character. अब मैं ये भी देखता हूँ कि शॉर्टकट भी ये भी है कि कई दफ़ा हम अपनी कमिटमेंट्स पूरा नहीं करना चाहते. सो इट्स ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि हम कैरेक्टर, उसकी मैं जो एग्जांपल देता हूँ अपने यंगस्टर्स को, वो ये है कि आई मीन लुक एट नेचर, लुक एट वाटर. पानी का फॉर्मूला इज H2O. उसी पानी को आप जब बॉईल करते हैं 100 डिग्रीज के ऊपर तो वो आपका वेपर्स बन जाते हैं, ठीक है, लेकिन उसका कैरेक्टर चेंज नहीं होता. इट रिमेन्स H2O. उसी को अगर आप फ्रीज कर देते हैं और वो बर्फ बन जाती है, बर्फ बन तो जाती है बट इट रिमेन्स द केमिकल कंपोजिशन, उसका फॉर्मूला वही रहता है. उसको आप फ्लास्क में डालते हैं एज अ लिक्विड, वो ढाल तो लेगा फ्लास्क की शेप में, वो जग है या किसी और शेप की फ्लास्क है, पर उसका कैरेक्टर चेंज नहीं होता. So I think character is very important. You stick to your values. I think those values are extremely important. और shortcuts ना करें अगर आप. That's how you build trust. That's how you stand out. So I think ये 2-3 चीजें मैं देखता हूँ कि you have to think big, you have to collaborate because आप खुद नहीं कर सकते सब कुछ. So you have to collaborate in the right way, and then you have to keep on remembering who you are. I mean, stick to your value system, which is very important. क्योंकि उसके बगैर शॉर्ट टर्म तो शायद आपको एक आध सक्सेस मिल जाए, बट लॉन्ग टर्म आप सस्टेन नहीं कर पाएंगे उसको.
No, I think those are excellent messages, Irfan. मैं आपसे अब ये इस सारी चीज के बारे में बहुत अच्छी हमने इनपुट्स ली एंड आई अप्रिशिएट योर टाइम. आपका angles, avenues, perspective, and I think we want you to please keep tied to Alif USA because we're doing a lot of projects in Pakistan for the young people, and I think some of those things that you mentioned, maybe we'll have a separate discussion offline on those kind of things. So I thank you for your time today and for giving us such a beautiful perspective on your world. हमारी next TechCast जो है number 7 will be on April 1st. Professor Ashfaq Khokar, who's the Dean of Engineering at Iowa State University, will be our guest. Please subscribe to the Alif USA channel and on social media, LinkedIn and YouTube. As always, I end with a शेर. आज मैं 2 शेर पढ़ूंगा इल्हाम इकबाल के, जो कि बहुत अहम है मेरे हिसाब से यंग लोगों के लिए. परवाज है दोनों की इसी एक फिजा में, करगिस का जहां और है शाही का जहां और, अल्फाज व मानी में तफावत नहीं लेकिन मुल्ला की अज़ा और मुजाहिद की अज़ा और. थैंक यू वेरी मच एंड विल सी यू नेक्स्ट टाइम. खुदा हाफिज.
थैंक यू जी.